My name is John Massey, and this is my grace story. I was raised in an extremely poor, abusive, alcoholic household. My childhood was very difficult, to say the least. Started working when I was 14 years old, moved out of home when I was 17, was still able to graduate high school when I was 18, got married and started my career in the car business when I was 19. Spent the next 13 years climbing the management ladder in the car business. During that time, we were blessed with three wonderful children. When I was 32, we started our own company. When I was 35, we bought a house back in Marion and moved back here from Ashley. By worldly standards, I was doing great, but inside I was empty. I was a good provider for my family, but I was not so good at being a dad and being a husband. The pain of my childhood had given me an unhealthy obsession with being successful and wanting stuff. But whatever success or stuff I was able to achieve, it was never big enough to fill the emptiness that was inside of me. But looking back now, I realized God had a plan. Little did I know we had just moved next door to a Christian family who were very open with their faith. One of the local youth groups met at their house on a weekly basis. They immediately reached out to Chris. Before I knew it, Chris was going to youth group and then to church, and before I knew it, he had given his life to Christ. One day, Chris called me in his bedroom and wanted to share the gospel with me. Wanted to tell me about Jesus, wanted to tell me how much God loved me and that God desired to have a relationship with me. I wasn't too excited about that. My idea of Christianity was something along the lines of it was a group of people who led boring lives, but they had it all together and they were good at following a set of rules. I grew up going to church, but I never really got who Jesus really was. And I still would go to church on Christmas and on Easter, but I found myself working against church. My wife always did a good job trying to get the kids to church, but I found myself trying to find other things for the family to do so we didn't have to go to church. We went to church the day that Chris got baptized, and God used that to really start working on me. I started going to a Bible study. A group of men met at the Merrill Lynch building. We would do Bible study and watch basketball. One night after Bible study, I came home. The house was dark. Everyone was in bed, and it just clicked. I kneeled on the living room floor and gave my life to Christ. I had come to the conclusion that God loved me, that the sacrifice Jesus made on the cross did apply to me, and that God longed to have a relationship with me. I also found that a relationship with God was the only thing that would fill the emptiness I had experienced in my life for many years. We later found out that our neighbor, before we moved in, had prayer walked our entire house, praying that God would reveal himself to whoever moved in if they didn't already know Jesus. The minute that she found out that I'd given my life to Christ, I remember she came over and gave me a big hug with tears in her eyes. And you could just you could sense the joy that she had knowing that we had come to know the Lord. But God has done some amazing things since then. We still have had our share of struggles and hurdles in our life, but God has blessed us in so many ways. I remember when we bought our house, the first thing I noticed was a door knocker that says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." And my first thought was, that's going to have to come down. But I'm glad to say it's now true. Our entire household are now followers of Jesus. It was a real privilege getting baptized with my wife and then watching our daughters, Caitlin and Bailey, get baptized together. I had the privilege of going to Peru with Chris and telling people about Jesus and getting to witness an entire elementary school giving their life to Christ. Got to witness my mother giving her life to Christ before she lost her battle with cancer. It was awesome watching Chris answer God's call into ministry. God has given us an amazing daughter-in-law, Juliet, to be part of our family. My brother-in-law, GJ, recently gave his life to Christ, and that was awesome to be able to experience and be there with him. I'm getting ready to celebrate 25 years of marriage to my wife Shannon next week, and in less than a month we're going to get to experience the joy of being grandparents for the first time. With all that said, I'm definitely still a work in progress. I could go on and on. God has blessed us in incredible ways, but what I'm saying is God is good, and He has really, really blessed us. I still have a lot of growing and maturing in my faith to do, but I am so thankful where God has brought me from. Each day that God gives me the privilege of being part of, it's the cry of my heart that God would continue to mold and shape me into the man and the dad and the husband and the soon-to-be grandpa that He desires for me to be.